Emory Hunt in studio. Bryant McFadden, the two-time Super Bowl champ, joining the conversation as well. And I can't wait to hear what you fellas have to say about the Buffalo Bills, but we're going to have to wait a moment because this Houston defense takes top billing. We're looking at 8 sacks and 3 turnovers forced, Emory Hunt. What impresses you most about the way they assert themselves no matter who they're looking at?
The discipline that they played with was super impressive because we talked in the pregame show how you have to get pushed versus pressure against a quarterback like Josh Allen, who does a great job in forcing you to play disciplined football for 4 quarters. And we saw them do exactly that because how many sacks? 5 sacks tonight against Josh Allen, and what they were able to do because those defensive edge rushers were able to get pushed, flatten out where he set up in his drop, and then flatten toward him. Sometimes he got sacks, sometimes it was more so on the defensive interior, but it was the fact that they continuously collapsed the pocket around him, forced some errant throws, and on the back end, they made plays consistently. So the front end helped out the back end, but it was the fact that those defensive linemen did a great job in playing with push instead of pressure.
Hey, Emory, I will not allow you to shortchange the Texans defense. You said 5 sacks. They had 8 sacks. They had 8 sacks. 8 sacks against Josh Allen. They have something that no other defense has. They have players that look like Josh Allen. That's the thing. When you have players that look like what they hunt, they usually go get those praise in the wilderness, in the jungle. Danielle Hunter looks like Josh Allen. Will Anderson looks like Josh Allen. Burnett, all of those guys are extremely athletic. They're big, they're physical, and they have depth. That's the thing. We saw multiple times in multiple series for the defense for the Houston Texans with Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter on the sideline, and it didn't matter. They were hunting tonight. And then when you talk about the pass rushers, when you have 2 lockdown corners, Lassiter and Stingley Jr., now you can really do a lot. So this defense has been phenomenal the entire season, but it has been kind of going unnoticed, not unnoticed, but under the radar because of the stage, the lack thereof, and some of the quarterbacks they've been playing against. Well, they were on a big stage tonight playing against one of the best quarterbacks coming off the heels of a 6-touchdown performance. And guess what? They neutralized any potential success for the Buffalo Bills offensively.
Joe, we watched that 1 sack Will Anderson had where he hustled and got back into the play. But that play doesn't happen if defensive lineman Tim Settle isn't chasing Josh Allen flat down the line. So it was a legit team effort in how they got those sacks. That was just impressive.
There is pride in pursuit for this group who hunt Josh Allen, as you put it here, throughout the night. B-Mac to sack him 8 times, 6 different players getting in the sack column. I don't know if it's Hunter or Hunted, but B-Mac's been taking it on the chin this last week from the Buffalo Bills fans after something he said a week ago after the win against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Let's run it back. Let's take a listen.
Josh Allen cannot afford to be Clark Kent at any given time. He has to be Superman anytime they step on the football field for them to win, especially against playoff caliber teams. Today he was Superman. Last week he was Clark Kent. They lost. They got to find a way to get others going on. Josh Allen has to be the Jalen Brunson for their team. He's the Iron Man. He has to do it all.
All right, I just wanted to lay that out there, Max, so you can get a little get back here. Not to say that Josh Allen played poorly in this game. It obviously wasn't his best football comparative to a 6-touchdown performance just a week ago. But how much of this falls on Josh and how much falls on the lack of depth here built by Brandon Beane? I'm looking at an offense that just doesn't have enough around Superman.
They don't have enough dudes. They don't have enough dudes. And when you're playing against playoff caliber teams in big moments, it usually surfaces. Remember, Josh Allen had to be the best player in the world last week for them to win, and it almost wasn't enough, Joe. Emory, think about this. Your quarterback has almost 400 yards of total offense, 6 touchdowns, and that still almost isn't enough. So the personnel is hurting them. Josh Allen has to be at his best any given time when they're playing against really, really good teams, especially teams with more than serviceable defenses, because they don't have the ideal performers that surround him. Khalil Shakur is a really, really good wide receiver, right? He's a really, really good wide receiver. But on most teams, he will probably be a really good number 2. But because of the lack thereof, he has to be their number 1. He has to be their most versatile offensive weapon. I would love to see them rely more on the running game. It seems like they just take the football away from James Cook, especially when you know you don't have a lot of dudes at the pass catching position when you're missing your best tight end. So what we're seeing right now with the Buffalo Bills is what this team looks like when they're playing against playoff caliber teams that have good championship aspirations. So me personally, Josh Allen has to be at his best, guys. When he's playing against these type of opponents, he has to be at his best. And it was a tall task they asked of him, especially off the heels of what he did last week at home on the road against the Texans.
And to the point about the run game, Mac, James Cook had 75 yards in the first 16 minutes of this football game. He had 3 rushes for 11 yards across the next 30 minutes. I'm talking to America's running back here, Emory Hunt. Emory, when we look at the play calling, we're trying to figure out what went wrong in this game, and our eyes always go to Josh Allen. But between personnel and play calling, where do you start the autopsy of what needs to change and what needs to change and what can be changed right now?
How many times you guys, every Sunday when you guys are up here talking about the game and you talk about what happened in the game, you always bring up players, not plays. Mm-hmm. This is what happened when you have Josh Allen having to be Superman and you have, Batman right next to him and James Cook, and you forget he exists. You saw what he did early in the game, getting up out the gate and boom, touchdown. And then you forget he's that type of explosive game breaker. And then when you go back to him, he rips off a couple of runs and you get him back into a groove, then you go away from him again. Like, I feel like Joe Brady also should shoulder some of this blame too. Like, you got a guy that's a legit game breaker. Keep giving game breakers the football until everyone else gets up to speed and figure things out. And if you don't have those type of guys that can make it happen, then you got to find ways to create those. We saw them get creative and go in their bag of tricks to try to generate some chunk plays. It worked at sometimes it didn't. But if you don't have the playmakers, you got to get creative offensively. But man, it's hard watching Buffalo play when they don't continue to give the ball to James Cook, despite him doing what he did tonight all throughout the season.
Hey, if you didn't know any better with Buffalo and with James Cook, you would think James Cook has some incentives in his contract they don't want him to reach. Because I can't explain why they take the football out of number 4's hands. It doesn't make any sense. When you're playing against this defense with these type of pass rushers, you want to run the football. Mm-hmm. They consistently do that. And it's not just tonight. It's been the case for the majority of the season. When James Cook is really cooking, they take him out of the game, especially in the red zone. He's not anywhere involved in the game planning in the red zone. It doesn't make any sense. But Joe, I say this with you all the time. My legendary defensive coordinator, Dick LeBeau, who is in the Hall of Fame, he used to tell us all the time, offensive coordinators are egocentric. They feed their ego. Instead of doing it the easier way, they want to do it the hard way. You run the football on first down, you get 6 yards. One would think they would run it on 2nd and 4. But what do? They throw the football. And this is a telling sign of coordinators being more egocentric because we all see it, the fans see it. But for some reason, the offensive coaches on that staff, they don't see it. And if you're Houston, I love the fact that they took the football out of number 4 hand because he was looking like he was going to have a field day.
Maybe most detrimental is that defensive line could see it. They were pinning their ears back, didn't have to respect the run in the big chunk middle of that football game when they really started to accumulate those sacks and put the pressure on Josh Allen. We'll get back to Houston here in a moment, but this Buffalo loss has ripple effects as well. When you look at the top of that division, the New England Patriots saying, thank you, Houston. Now 2 games clear and yet to play this week. Still a head-to-head between those 2 teams coming down the stretch. Nothing is out of the question or written in stone, but you're now in murky wild card waters with the Texans also lurking behind. You have to respect both the Ravens and the Chiefs despite even 5-5 records as it currently stands. But Mac, I want to look at the quality or lack thereof of the Buffalo losses. This isn't the CFP. We're not going to call on Tuesday, but New England, Atlanta, Miami, and now Houston with Davis Mills. In a down year in the AFC, this does feel almost like squandered opportunity, at least at this point, does it not?
It does, Joe. It does. You talk about the Miami loss and the fashion in which they lost. That was surprising. Then you lost to Davis Mills tonight. And granted, Davis Mills didn't do a lot, but he outperformed your star quarterback. So when you look at the Buffalo Bills, compared to the teams from Buffalo that we've seen in years past, guys, they're not there yet. They're not a championship caliber team. And I'm not saying they can't or they won't be, But right now, as we see it this week, and based on what they've done so far this season, they're too up and down. They're too up and down. You have reservations about the talent or the lack thereof on the offensive side. Defensively, they're very, very vulnerable in the interior. They're missing Ed Oliver tremendously, and they're not tough enough in terms of being stout against opposing offenses' ground and pound attack. Woody Marks had a good game today, right? He got injured. What about Sean Tucker from last week with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? So those are the things they need to shore up to be better, to be able to reach the level we believe they could reach as we got ready for this season. But right now, they're not a championship caliber team. And if you're the New England Patriots, you love it. If you're the Indianapolis Colts, you love it. If you're the Baltimore Ravens, you love it, because we feel like this was a team, potentially everything could go through to get to San Francisco to compete for a Sticky Lombardi.
You talked about those teams that beat Buffalo, Joe, and you brought up Miami, you brought up Atlanta. And if we can pull that schedule back up again for Buffalo, I'm worried about them from weeks 15 through 17 because those teams can run the heck out of the football. They got to worry about the Patriots run game, the Browns run game, and the Eagles run game. That right there could be a significant blow to their playoff hopes if they can't find a way to get things together. Then when you look at the Steelers and their ability just to collapse the pocket, we saw what that looked like tonight versus Houston. That could be a problem for Buffalo in that matchup. So they have their work cut out for them. I know they're in the playoffs right now, but they could be on the outside looking in if things don't get shored up front along the offensive line, and if they can't stop the run on the defensive side of the football.
All right, Emory, a closing thought here about Houston's role in it all, because we are looking at a defense that has given up 20 or more points 3 times this season. And one of those instances was a 20-point performance by this defense. It's going to keep you in every single football game you are in. The offense made timely plays. And yes, it's Davis Mills' Houston Texans, but C.J. Stroud's Houston Texans weren't clicking on all cylinders offensively either. What is their role when you take the total sum of the parts in Houston right now?
DeMeco Ryans is a fantastic coach, and I love the fact that he empowers his guys, because even though the run game or the passing game may be a little bit different, what happened tonight was that we saw the young guys step up, the Jalen Knowles, the Jaden Higgins, the Xavier Hutchinsons, all of those guys stepped up. So when you get C.J. Stroud back, now you got young guys that are acclimated to playing high significant roles at wide receiver. Then the run game is going to continue to get better and better because of it. And now they have confidence on offense to protect. You're going to get your guy back. You got to protect better up front. I thought they did well tonight. But this all stems from DeMeco Ryans being a great head coach that had his guys ready to play discipline, and he went out there and got the upset.
The best thing they did tonight, Emory, Joe, offensively, they didn't mess it up. That's the best thing they did. Punting the football is not a bad thing when you play for the Houston Texans. It's actually a good thing, because the field position they were able to utilize defensively that helped them keep Josh Allen and his offense pinned back and gave favorable field position for field goal attempts. When you have this type of defense, honestly, a field goal is like a touchdown. Like when they got that second field goal in the second half to go up 7, you felt really, really good in their chances, because you knew it would be difficult for Buffalo to drive the length of the football field to score a touchdown. Remember, guys, Texans, their defense only gave up 13 points. It was a return kick. They actually had a return interception for touchdown as well, but the block in the back took that off the scoreboard. They're playing phenomenal football. Yeah. So C.J. Stroud, when he comes back, just don't mess it up. It's okay. Punting the football is okay. And Woody Marks is running the football better than what he did before the C.J. Stroud injury. So that's something they can hang their hat on and hopefully provide a sense of balance to help the passing game out.
The saying rings true, especially with this pass rush group. You don't mess with Texas. Houston sacks the quarterback 8 times in a win over the Buffalo Bills. Great work, gentlemen. Look, here at some numbers coming out of it. You know, last week we were waxing poetic about 3 through the air and 3 on the ground. Only Josh Allen and Otto Graham like a century ago. 1954, 3/4 of a century. No touchdowns and 2 or more turnovers. Only a handful of instances in Allen's already storied career.